So with that being said, our first team to grade. Why don't you kick us off?
Has to be the Chiefs. It has to be
Kick
the
us
Chiefs.
off, boss.
If you missed last week's show, we are going to grade all 32 teams' seasons. Last week we did the sad cat section. This week we have kind of the Super Bowl winners and some miscellaneous. We're gonna start off with the Chiefs because it just makes sense to start off with the Chiefs and the Eagles. We both gave them A pluses. My reasoning is that if you win the Super Bowl, there is no other way for it to be anything other than an A plus. And I think the biggest takeaway on the season for me was, and I think a lot of people too in the media, is that maybe not. I don't know. I haven't really heard anybody talk about it, but I haven't been consuming a lot of Super Bowl media this week, so I'm not sure. But it's like when you get rid of the then best receiver in the NFL, still top two for me. I think the best right now is Justin Jefferson. I don't know if you can argue that if you want to, fine. But when you lose Tyreek Hill and it doesn't even matter, that's just insane. You have the MVP of the league and the Super Bowl and Patrick Mahomes. There was never a doubt in my mind. Because I even said on this show, like, even with Patrick Mahomes' sprained ankle, like the Chiefs are it. Like, I don't care if it's fucking Chad Henne. Like, I think that the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. And then leading back to Chad Henne in the game against the Jaguars, when you had to rely on Chad Henne, you still got it done when he was in for what, a little over a quarter, maybe. Like when you can make Chad Henne, who retired after the Super Bowl, fucking get you into an AFC championship game because he had to, because we didn't know what was going on with Patrick Mahomes. And as a fan, I was still sweating in that moment. Kudos to you. And I also had that we can talk about Eric Bieniemy after you tell me why you also gave them an A plus, just because I have some thoughts there as well.
Yeah, so I give him an A plus too. 100% agree. I think that, for a really long time, I've been a Patrick Mahomes hater. I'm going to be honest. Like, there's something I found really dislikable about him. And this weekend, honestly, I think kind of turned me around. He has huge balls, first of all. Like,
true.
For him to get out there and do what he did on Sunday was kind of incredible. And he's a really amazing quarterback, the best in the league right now, you could argue.
Oh my God, he has been for 2 years, in my opinion.
And I think that I've been in denial personally for quite some time. And really on Sunday, first of all, Sunday was just a great game. It was an awesome game to watch. Really great.
Better football. Than I expected.
Best Super Bowl I remember in a long time. I was like, I had a lot of fun watching it. And maybe it's because I wasn't really invested in either team. I didn't really care if either team won, but they both just played phenomenal football. And it was really fun to watch. It's basically the whole point of the Super Bowl, right? Is the two best teams in the league playing each other. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say the same thing about Andy Reid. I love Andy Reid's coaching style. Obviously has paid off for him at this rate. And what he's been able to do in Kansas City is incredible. And I think that it's, time that, not only me, right, but other people, start really seeing him as a powerhouse coach. I think he's a really great football coach. And
yeah,
he's also we talked about Doug P's balls last week, and Doug P has huge balls. And I think so does Andy Reid. So,
yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, because
he pulled out.
Go Birds.
Yeah.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Thank you, you two.
And then also just their offensive line played amazing. Absolutely amazing. They understood the assignment. They did the assignment. They went in there and
they had to, though, because he's.
I know they had to. Dude. Well, that's the thing. That's what I mean. They understood the assignment. They understood what they needed to do to win that game, and they did it, and they did it well. And the Eagles' defense looked like nothing out there comparatively. So I was just really impressed with the Chiefs this weekend. Patrick Mahomes definitely gets my respect, and I will be rooting for him going forward. And just also a lot of I did consume a bit of Super Bowl content, more so than I usually would, I would say, with a Chiefs Super Bowl, because I've been like kind of anti-Chiefs in the last couple of years, just because they're good and the Patriots are getting worse. Just like the way things go.
Hater era.
But honestly, like, he seems like a really great guy, really stand-up guy, very well-spoken, very educated. And
I also had no idea he had tattoos until this week, so I kind of love
him
more for
that. He does a lot of work for the community and for the Kansas City area. So honestly, I'm rooting for him going forward. Congratulations to them. And I think it was great.
Yeah, well, we said last week, like, I'm so pro Patrick Mahomes. It's just like the way that the media treats him and his family makes him so unlikable. And I totally agree. I fucking love Pat. Like, I think he's the dude, but like his family's just annoying.
Yeah, I think when you pull back the curtain on it,
that sucks to say out loud, because it's like if anyone said that about my family, I'd be like, well, yeah, true.
I agree.
But like, yeah, but like I get it, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to talk about Eric Bieniemy for a second. I've said this since the Jags were kind of looking for Doug P last year. You know, Byron and Doug P were kind of like a lot of people's favorites to win the job, but I was also pro Eric Bieniemy and pro Kellen Moore. And I do think that both of them deserve a head coaching job. That being said, it was announced that Eric Bieniemy is interviewing to be the Washington Commanders offensive coordinator. And I just don't understand why, one, he doesn't have a head coaching job yet, because that offense has been incredible under him the entire time that he's been there. Like, look at the fucking talent that they've had and that they've retained. And like, sure, I know that Andy Reid probably has like his hand in some of the play calling, but for the most part, like, it's Eric Bieniemy and his play calling is phenomenal. And I just don't understand why he would I don't understand why he would interview for an offensive coordinator position with a team that doesn't even have a quarterback when he has his hands so deep in Patrick Mahomes that it's like, why would you leave that? It's just weird to me. And I don't understand how he doesn't or hasn't had a head coaching job.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. And obviously we went to Washington this year. We know that their offense could use a Eric Bieniemy for sure in their system, but I 100% agree. I think he should definitely be in a head coaching conversation. Stephen A had a really interesting take on First Take this week, where he talked about the fact that Andy Reid is still calling some plays means that the credit isn't necessarily always given where, you know, to that OC position where it necessarily should be. So having Andy Reid be so hands-on all the time as a head coach, Stephen A argued, holds back Eric in that interview process in terms of going for a head coach position, which I thought was an interesting point. I don't think that is the whole story.
It's an interesting point.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't care if you're calling 0 plays or all the plays. If your offense is working out the way the Chiefs have under you, he deserves a head coaching job over a lot of these fucking guys that have been hired in the last couple of years. I mean, like, oh my God. I mean, the list goes, the first one coming to mind is fucking Urban Meyer. But that's just my 2 cents. I just don't understand. I've been so pro him and Kellen Moore since obviously the Jag situation. So I think that they both deserve to be head coaches. The Eagles, I gave an A- just because you got to the Super Bowl and lost it. On the plus side, you found your quarterback in Jalen Hurts. There was a lot of question there over whether you were going to have to try and find somebody else, if that draft pick was going to work out for you. And he did a complete 180, and I'm happy for them. Like I said, another sad face for me is that Nick Sirianni is kind of cringe, but he's a good coach. The other things that I kind of am like, is that nobody expected them to be here. That's also a plus. Like, I don't remember very many people talking heavily about the Eagles earlier in this season. And the fact that they were in the Super Bowl, especially in the division that they play in, is fucking crazy. And I'm worried that the only other reason that I'm like disappointed in the fact that they lost the Super Bowl, because I was cheering for them, is that they just have, like the Bengals, have a lot of guys who are questionable to return next year, and they've got to sign some contracts. They've got to pay some guys. And this team's not going to look the same. Jason Kelsey's probably going to retire, and he's goated. And I just think that Sirianni is an awesome coach. You have Devonta Smith. Jalen Hurts is awesome. You're going to have a lot of changes, and I'm not sure that you're going to be in the same position next season. So I'm a little worried about their ability to keep the ball rolling in the right direction to constantly be in an NFC championship game. But the NFC is not that great right now. So maybe that's not something they're worried about. I don't know. Maybe he can figure it out, but that is the only reason that I'm like A-, not A. Do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I gave him an A- too. I would go, A-. I can't really pick one or the other. I think they had a really strong showing this season. Again, I hate to keep saying this, but I find the players on the Eagles to be incredibly likable, which is crazy because I think that, especially as a Boston fan, I never would find myself cheering for Philly in any way.
I love Philly.
And they really got me this Super Bowl. I was really rooting for them. And, I think Kansas City ended up being the better team on Sunday, but also I think they had a really strong season and a really strong showing. And like you said, the NFC is obviously struggling in certain areas. So I wrote that they have a pretty good draft this upcoming draft. So, seeing what they're able to do there, I think is going to be really interesting. Nick Sirianni, the Philly fans seem to really ride for him. They seem to really be into him and really support him. And they're going to be the first fan base to tell you when they want someone out. So if they feel confident in him and his ability to coach, then I'm sure, we'll see by next season, by the end of this time next season, how we feel about him. But, obviously I think to go 14-3 with your team is pretty impressive in the season, and to make it to the Super Bowl obviously is most teams' goals, right? So obviously a win would have been better. My heart breaks for Jason Kelce. Seeing him crying at the end of the game was really, really tough. And it was going to be tough either way, right? Whether he won and Travis lost, but I think it hurts a little bit more just because this is probably his last season. But seeing what he's done for the city of Philly, and not only their team, but just their organization in general, he's just such a stand-up guy. And I thought it was really cool that we got to highlight a lot of those kind of players during this matchup. So shout out to the Eagles. I thought they did great. And Eagles fans, sorry, but also why did you flip over a car before the game? And why
okay,
did after?
True.
Not a great
so the Eagles have 2 first-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
One from a trade with the Saints, their own pick.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have 4, 5, or 6 though, but they have 2 7ths. So I think if they can front load there in those first 3 rounds, that's obviously awesome. And it kind of obviously makes up for the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds, but it kind of sucks that they have 2 7th round picks instead of a 6th and a 7th.
Yeah, I think they make up for that in 2027. It's a later year, a later draft that they make up for it. But yeah,
we're
gonna see. Yeah, we're gonna see. I mean, they can draft, and they've proven that. So I think that if they are able to get some really strong contenders in that first round, then that'll kind of cancel out the lack of picks later on.
They just have a lot of people to replace, and Jason Kelce is tough.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah.
Those clips that they put out about their mom this week were really cute.
Mm-hmm. So cute.
Yeah, super cute. So I love the Eagles. I think that they could, like you said, if they draft properly, be here again in 3 or 4 years, but it's just a matter of that if there.